Well, hello there, my young readers, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new, welcome. We've got Thomas back, and he brought not one, not two, but 3 stories with him. Now, remember, guys, if you want to be able to read it yourself, what you can do is pause before each page, and you'll know when the next page comes because you'll get a little bell. And you can pause, you can read that, and then unpause, and then it'll be read to you. So if you guys are ready, go ahead and get your snacks, get your drinks, pause this video, run to the bathroom, come on back, and stay tuned. The name of this story is called Thomas and the Treasure, and this is part of the Thomas and Friends series. Enjoy. Brendam Docks is a very busy place. Engines bring freight cars, cranes unload cargo, and ships bring visitors. One day, Thomas had to collect a very important visitor, the Admiral. Thomas was to take the Admiral to open the new Maritime Museum. It was a museum of all about the sea. Salty was excited. The Admiral is always looking for lost pirate treasure on Sodar, he said. Pirates? Scoffed James. Treasure? Huffed Emily. Yes, said Salty, but no one has ever found it. Salty told them there were 3 clues. First, find the eagle of the mountains. Its beak will point to the clouds not in the sky. Then those clouds will lead to the skull and crossbones. There, you'll find the treasure, me hearties. Eagle? Clouds? Skull and crossbones? Tooted Thomas excitedly. I'm sure I could solve those clues. Emily and James thought it was all nonsense, and that made Thomas cross. Just then, the Admiral arrived. Thomas puffed off to collect them. The Admiral had to be at the museum in time for the grand opening. Thomas felt very proud to be taking him. What if I arrived with the Admiral and a chest of pirate treasure, thought Thomas. That would show James and Emily. So Thomas chuffed onto the track away from the museum and set off into the mountains to look for the first clue. How could an eagle point the way? Wondered Thomas. How could clouds not be in the sky? And Thomas knew he had never seen a skull and crossbones anywhere. Later, Emily puffed towards Thomas. There's no such thing as treasure, she laughed. But Thomas paid no attention. The eagle of the mountains had to be somewhere. Then he saw something wonderful. A mountain that looked like an eagle. Thomas was very excited. I've found the first clue, he hooted happily. Now I'll find the next one. The eagle's head would point the way. Suddenly, Thomas saw a track leading in the direction of the stone beak. Where are you going, Thomas? Wished James. To find the clouds that are not in the sky, whistled Thomas. How silly, snorted James, and he chuffed away. But Thomas didn't mind. He knew the clouds were here somewhere. And then he saw them. The clouds not in the sky were reflections of clouds in the lake. I found the second clue, wished Thomas excitedly. One more and I'll find the treasure. Thomas looked for a long time. and he forgot all about the Admiral. Then Harold arrived with Sir Topham Hatt. "The Admiral is late for the opening of the museum," he boomed crossly. "You have been unreliable," added Sir Topham Hatt. "Harold will now take the Admiral to the museum." Thomas felt very foolish. If only he hadn't spent so much time looking for the clues. "Fancy believing in a silly old story," laughed Harold. "Everyone thinks I'm silly," huffed Thomas. "But I still believe there's treasure." Thomas puffed sadly along the track away from the lake. Thomas had never been this way before, so he didn't know where it would lead. It led him into a tunnel. At last, Thomas came to the end of the line. He was surprised. There were all the other engines, and there was the Admiral. "I am very proud to declare the new Maritime Museum open," he announced. Everyone cheered and whistled. Then Thomas saw something even more exciting. "That's it!" Thomas tooted. "The pirate's treasure's right here." "Don't be silly," huffed Emily. "Everyone knows it's just a silly old story," snorted James. But Thomas knew he was right. "I followed all the clues," he puffed proudly. "And you have found the skull and crossbones," cried the Admiral. Everyone was surprised. "Someone get me a shovel." The Admiral was so excited he dug for the pirate treasure himself. He found a big wooden chest. Inside was the pirate treasure. "The pirate treasure will be the most important thing in the whole museum," said the Admiral. "Thomas," boomed Sir Topham Hatt, "you have made this the best opening ever." Thomas was very proud. He had been right to believe in Salty's story. He had found the treasure. Well, that ends that story. But next is Duncan's Bluff. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. It was winter time on the island of Sodor. Duncan was busy puffing through the white mountains and the frosty forests. He was proud to be a narrow-gauged engine. Duncan was delivering coal to the villages. They were going to need extra coal for the main coaling plant. So James and Thomas brought coal to the wharf. Duncan chuffed in to talk to James. "You were a long time getting here," teased Duncan. "You're lucky I came at all," wheezed James crossly. "I've got an important job to do later. I'm taking some kids to a concert." "Oh? Is doing 2 jobs in one day too hard for you?" Duncan chuffed cheekily. "Puh," snorted James. "I can do more jobs in one day than you can. I'm really useful." This made Duncan cross. "How about a wee contest?" chuffed Duncan. "I bet I can take more coal to the villages faster than you can deliver it." "All right," puffed James. "You're on." "I'll show you who's fastest," chuffed Duncan. But Duncan was worried. James was big and strong. "I hope I can be as fast as James," he puffed nervously. So Duncan delivered all his coal as fast as he could. "Must beat James, must beat James," he puffed. But when Duncan arrived back at the wharf, James was waiting for him. "I told you, mainline engines were the fastest," teased James. Duncan looked at the long line of freight cars. There was plenty of coal for the villagers there. But Duncan didn't want to lose. "Oh, is this all you brought?" he tooted. The villagers need lots more coal than that." "Then I'll bring more coal than you've ever seen," puffed James. James raced back to the coaling plant, and Duncan delivered the coal to the villagers. Now all the villagers had plenty of coal. Duncan puffed back to the wharf. But when Duncan arrived at the wharf, there were still lots more coal cars waiting. So Duncan decided to play a trick. "I'll hide the coal cars before James gets back," he puffed. Soon, all the cars were hidden. "Now, James will think I've delivered all the coal," Duncan chuffed cheerfully. James had collected lots more freight cars from the coaling plant. He was puffing harder than he had ever puffed before, and he was using lots of coal. At last, James arrived at the wharf. There was Duncan. "You still haven't brought enough coal," teased Duncan. "I thought you were supposed to be really useful." "I'll soon be back with so much coal," puffed James. "It'll take you all winter to deliver it." "Oh, we'll see," puffed Duncan. James still had to take the children to the concert, but he had been puffing so hard he had used up all the coal in his tender, and soon he ground to a halt. That evening, the narrow gauge controller came to see Duncan. "James is stuck. He's run out of his coal," he announced. "Now he won't be able to take the children to the concert." Duncan felt terrible. He thought about all the coal cars he had hidden. He thought about James, and then he thought about the children. "I have to tell you about the hidden coal cars," he wheezed. The narrow gauge controller listened hard. "You have caused delay and confusion," he said slowly. "But you have told the truth, and a useful engine always tells the truth." "I'll only be a really useful engine if I can help James," whistled Duncan. So Duncan collected one of the coal cars he had hidden. Snow started to fall. Duncan rattled along the icy tracks, until at last Duncan found James. "What are you doing here?" snorted James. "I played a trick on you," chuffed Duncan. "I didn't take all the coal to the villages. I hid it from you." "You are the fastest and a really useful engine," Duncan added. But James told Duncan that he was a really useful engine too. "You brought the coal to me so quickly, I will still be able to take the children to the concert," he puffed. "Thank you, Duncan." The coal was quickly loaded into James' tender. Soon his fire was roaring and his boiler was as warm as toast. He steamed off to collect the children. Duncan felt happy. "James is a really useful engine," puffed Duncan. "Oh, but so am I." And he chuffed happily away to deliver more coal to the snowy villages. Well, that ends that story. But up next is Seeing the Sights. And if you need to take a break, go ahead and pause, come on back, and we'll get started. There are lots of wonderful sights to see on the island of Sodor. One summer's day, Thomas was given a very special job. "Thomas," said Sir Topham Hatt, "you are to collect some very important visitors from the mainland. They are arriving at Brendam Docks." "Yes, sir," tooted Thomas happily. "I will show them all the sights of Sodor." Thomas puffed happily towards Brendam Docks. Thomas pulled up at the gangplank. "Welcome aboard," he tooted. "I will show you all the wonderful sights of Sodor." Just then, Gordon steamed in. "I should be showing the sights to the important visitors," he sniffed. "Why?" huffed Thomas. "Because," wished Gordon, I could show them around much more quickly than you. Then they would see everything there is to see on Sodar. Thomas was cross. I can show them all the sights just as quickly as you can, he whistled. Just you wait and see. Thomas heard pasture doors slam. Everyone's on board, he thought, and he chuffed away as quickly as he could. So much to see, so much to see. Let's get a move on. Count on me. Then there was trouble. Thomas had left some of the visitors behind. Later, Thomas had to wait at a signal. Bertie the bus drove up. He had picked up the visitors Thomas left behind. Bertie honked his horn, but the signal had changed and Thomas puffed away. Thomas was in a hurry. Silly tank engine, parped Bertie. I will have to chase after you. The children on board Bertie thought a chase was great fun. Thomas arrived at Black Lock. Everyone out to see the seals, he tooted. Hurry up! Hurry up! The visitors took their cameras to see Black Lock. Thomas had to wait. He didn't like waiting. He had to show the visitors all the sights. Otherwise, he thought, I won't be as fast as Gordon. Time to go, he peeped loudly. Thomas heard a passenger door slam. Everyone must be on board, he thought, and Thomas chuffed away as fast as he could. But Thomas had left more visitors behind. Soon, Thomas arrived at the Scottish castle. Everyone out, he peeped. Hurry up! Hurry up! Then Thomas had to wait again. He wheezed some steam, and he started to worry. We'll never see everything if we don't hurry up, Thomas wheezed. Everyone back on board, please. Just then, Gordon steamed in. Flatten my funnel, sniffed Gordon. You haven't seen many sights. Yes, we have, and we're going to see more, huffed Thomas. He was cross. He puffed away as quickly as he could. But more visitors were left behind. Thomas steamed into the fishing village. Here's the next sight, he puffed. Everybody out, please. But Thomas couldn't hear any pasture doors opening. He was puzzled. Just then, Bertie arrived. What's happening? Asked Thomas. No one's getting out, Thomas, beeped Bertie, because no one's left on board. Thomas was surprised. Cinders and ashes, gasped Thomas. You were in so much of a hurry, you left them all behind. Thomas was upset. I must go back and pick up everyone. But first, he collected the visitors from Bertie the bus. And he steamed back to the castle. He picked up his passengers and puffed quickly back to Black Lock. With all the visitors on board, Thomas set off again. Thomas had to stop at a junction. He looked at the view of the sea. It was beautiful. I wish we could stay here all day, Thomas wished. There are so many things to do. The visitors looked out the windows. Their faces smiled when they saw the blue sea and the golden yellow sand. Suddenly, Thomas had an idea. We will stay here all day, he whistled. The visitors had a lovely time, making sand castles, riding donkeys, and eating ice creams. Thomas was very happy. You won't see all the sights eating ice creams, sniffed Gordon. It's better to see one place properly than lots of places in a hurry. Thomas chuffed happily. All the visitors agreed. Well, that ends all of our stories, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're actually going to end the video right here, but if you guys enjoyed it, please smash that like button. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And we'll see you guys next week. And remember, I am your little darling narrator. Out.